You're listening to the No BS Bishop podcast. We're alive to love, and all other values are potential BS. Now here's your host, Bishop Randy Dean.
Welcome, all you beautiful people out there. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I just want to say right up front, once again, thank you for trusting me with a half an hour of your life and time as a no BS bishop to bring you no bait and switch. That's how my BS label is used. No BS from me, no bait and switch. Not going to pull you in by telling you one thing and then switch to my real ugly, dark agenda. I'm here about love alone, and that's what you heard as we were introduced here. And so you're here. Yeah, thanks. You're amazing. You're beautiful. I feel treasured by your presence here. So today I want to talk to you about a subject that really bounces right off of the Reformation Day that we just respected and honored on the church calendar, when the Catholic Church that Martin Luther took a hammer and nailed to their door and labeled up there. He did a quick meme on them, didn't he? You know, their style of meme. I'm glad we're not hammering and nailing memes to doors anymore, but he was, and it got him in a world of trouble, and it led us to the Reformation. I think we lost a lot of things in the Reformation. I think we gained a lot of things in the Reformation. And now, you know, many hundreds of years later, I think here we are having to look real hard at the divorce that the church went through. Mama Catholic Church had to be separated from Daddy Protestant Church, and we are the kids. And who got custody of the kids? Well, a lot of different iterations of the above. So I want to talk to you about the institutions of Christianity as it relates to my favorite subject, love. We're going to get there in just a moment. So, in order to get there in a secure and happy way, I like to lead us in the Lord's Prayer, which we'll do just prior to leading you in Love's Creed. I've had the pleasure of speaking in a few places around in the neighborhood here, and everywhere I go lately, I take Love's Creed with me. And I'm finding people, when it runs up there on the PowerPoint projector, people grab their phones and take a picture of it. And I'm glad that they are. I want people to get a hold of this thing, to make that kind of creed their kind of life. So let's start with the Lord's Prayer, then I'll take you to something I wrote called the Love's Creed. All right? Now, Lord's Prayer, most prayed prayer in history. This prayer of genius from the mind and heart of the Son of God, Jesus. Beautiful words. If you know them, join me. If you don't, just listen in and connect to them. Here it is. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. I'm always aware when I pray the Lord's Prayer what a wonderful and powerful, conscientious filter it is for my mind and soul. Now, on to Love's Creed. Little something I wrote for a New Year's resolution over a decade ago, and it stuck with me. I had no idea one day I'd be sharing it week in and week out. As I said a moment ago, in a few places where I've been speaking and preaching, I've shared it, and now I share it again with you. So I want you to tune into it. I'm going to read it in total, then I want to go back and repeat it, and I'm going to ask you to do yourself, I think, the favor of saying out loud something that could be absolutely revolutionizing to your life. We talked about the Reformation, which revolutionized the church. I'm not so sure I've got a Martin Luther hammer and nail to bring you, but I do want to bring you something that'll turn your heart in the right direction. So here's Love's Creed in total, then we'll go back and repeat it together. I'm alive to love. I am not on this earth for hate. I'm alive for love. I'm not breathing, eating, and sleeping to regain energy for causing pain. I am alive with plans, dreams, and designs locked into anything and everything that is love. I am unavailable for anything less than love. Okay? Now repeat after me. Soak it in a little bit. Take it in just a little deeper than you ever have before. And if you've never joined with me in this before, tune into it. Just let it grab your consciousness. Here we go. Repeat after me. I'm alive to love. I am not on this earth for hate. I'm alive for love. I'm not breathing, eating and sleeping to regain energy for causing pain. I am alive with plans, dreams, and designs locked into anything and everything that is love. I am unavailable for anything less than love. If you'd like a copy of that, you can email me at randydeanministries@gmail.com. Be my pleasure to send you a copy. With no BS, no bait and switch, because my purpose is stone cold, or should I say stone hot, love and love alone. Well, as I introduced this today's podcast broadcast, I mentioned the institutions of Christianity as they exist in the context of love, and I want to make a statement of purpose here right off. Then I want to build around it so that you can see where I'm coming from. I can be easily misunderstood as being anti-church. I can be easily misunderstood as being a flailing, hatchet-wielding monster out here saying church is no good. And that's not who I am. That's not who I am. I've spent half a century building institutional church. But in that building process, I got to tell you, it's like building old buildings back in the day when asbestos was allowed to be blended into flooring and insulation and everywhere else. But when we did it, we created a potential sickness for the people inside the building. And I'm telling you that institutional Christianity has found itself with its own spiritual asbestos that needs to be removed. And if necessary, we may have to level a few buildings in the process. So here's my statement of purpose. Here we go. I believe that we folks of faith, we're not here to defend the institutions of Christianity, nor are we here to defend the institutionalized leaders who demand unquestioning allegiance. Now, stop for a moment and think about that. When Jesus arrived, he went right after the institutionalized purposes of Judaism. He wasn't there to destroy it. He was there to clean it up, get that asbestos out of the building. All right? And to that end, we're still to follow the model of Christ, who wasn't there to defend institutions or the institutionalized leaders. He called them into question. He called them into an account. I believe all of the passion that we have otherwise spent on defending institutionalized Christianity and institutionalized leadership, I think all that energy and passion is available to us, yes, but it's to be directed in this manner: to love God, to love our neighbors, and to love our enemies. Because, as you hear me say every time you join me, all lesser values are potential BS. And you can put BS in whatever iteration you choose there, but all other values, these lesser values, are potential bait and switch. It's potential, other BS. Let's be free of that. Let's be free in whatever level of Christianity we're involved with, whether it be an enormous denomination or one of the large campus churches that are flourishing all over the United States. On a side note, let me just say those campus churches, I'm not against them, but I'm going to tell you, they are an aberration in terms of the real presence of the church. these big campus churches are growing, and they're growing fast, and they have a, drive-through service, and it meets some needs, I'm sure, but it is not an indication of the vitality of the church, as in terms of the church that Christ is building. It's not an indication of the vitality of the church in our nation. Our nation is still suffering the loss of real membership in institutionalized Christianity. We're still fighting for our collective life, or even not so much fighting for it, but we're being made painfully aware that we're shrinking. The presence of the institutionalized church is shrinking. There's not a whole bunch of little corner shops anymore where you can go to church. All of those places they're fading away. 4,000 to 5,000 of them have been shuttered in the past several years. They're just going away. It's sad in one sense, but it's real. So what we need to do is wrap our arms around that reality. Listen to me carefully. I'm not saying cheer for the reality. I'm saying own the reality. When I'm sick, when I have if I've got a bad looking sore on my body somewhere and it just doesn't go away, no medication slows it down. If that sore just keeps growing and festering and looking infected, I don't just say, well, I hope in a few months it'll go away. No, I haul my little butt to a nearby clinic, and if I can, I get to see my doctor, my primary provider, and I say, hey, look at this ugly thing on my body. It's worrying me. And then my doctor would say, well, that worries me too. Let's do some tests. The point is, it's not that I throw my body away. Say, oh gosh, I got an ugly sore in my knee. I'm going to throw me away. No, it's about putting it under a magnifying glass, putting it through some rigorous testing, asking myself some hard questions, asking somebody else to look at me and ask some hard questions. What are you eating? What are you drinking? What kind of medications are you taking or not taking? To that end, this is true of church. The church has as I said earlier, we got some asbestos in the building, and these buildings are making people sick. And to correct that, we can't just put a mask over that. We can't just paint over the asbestos. It's not going to go away just by hoping and praying that we put enough linoleum over the top of it. Maybe 5 layers of linoleum will cover up that asbestos. And then we find out the linoleum has been made with asbestos. We have to embrace the truth of who we are. So institutionalized Christianity, especially here in the U.S. of A., is suffering. And it's suffering from a variety of maladies. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but one of the maladies is the sex abuse problems of leadership in Protestant church and Catholic church. The Catholic church has had a microscope on it over the past several years, and of late the Protestant church has a much needed microscope cast upon us. And even the denomination I came to faith in is under heavy legal scrutiny, where ministers and leaders in that denomination have been found to be sexually abusing children on an epidemic basis and getting away with it. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Institutionalized Christianity says, we can't afford all those lawsuits, so let's put some linoleum over that asbestos. And it's not going to work, folks. It's not going to work. We have to look in the metaphorical, the imaginary mirror and take a good, glaring look at that painful sore that's growing on our body. We need to go see our doctor, as it were, Dr. Jesus, the founder of the church, and say, hey, I got an ugly wound. What is that? And we need to do that corporately, and not just in the denomination I mentioned a moment ago, but I mean cross-denominationally, across the board. Catholic, Protestant, Lutheran, Episcopal, Pentecostal, you name it, Baptist. Oh my goodness, we're going to have to own some stuff. And to own it, we have to be brave enough to recognize that there is a sense of our loss of real credibility in our world around us. So that's why I'm saying we folks of faith are not here to defend the institutions of Christianity, nor are we here to defend without any condition the institutionalized leaders demanding unquestioned allegiance. That's what's gotten us in so much trouble. And I just mentioned the one issue of the sex scandals because it's pretty well researched and notified in the media right now. But beyond that, there are money scandals. There are, oh goodness, there's credibility scandals from the standpoint of leaders who have chosen to promote doctrines and theology that are tissue thin, but they aren't going back into the deep historicity of the church mothers and fathers, the patristic history of the church, not just in America. America's church history is it's just one story in a 10-story building of the church, and we need to go back to some of our deepest, most beautiful history in the church and understand that the church fathers and mothers had some profound things to teach and to say and to hold the church in its purity and beauty. To treat church history like it's 100 years old or 200 years old is to absolutely doom the church to extinction. So that's why I'm saying that we can't be just unquestioningly supporting church leaders without asking some hard questions. And hard questions doesn't mean we're rebellious. It doesn't mean we're being mean. It means that we're hungry. Having some doubts about what's being told us, having some doubts about what's being said, it means you really are a disciple. If you look at Jesus walking with his disciples, most, if not all, of their interactions were Q&A, question and answer. And I grant you that a lot of times the disciples thought they had all the answers, and most of the time Jesus had to blast their answers right out of the water and say, hold on a minute. You heard it of old said, but now I'm telling you. And he had to rework their presuppositions. We are in need of some of that reworking of presuppositions. I'm a church leader. That's where I've spent my life. And in many cases, I unfortunately made the mistake of demanding unquestioned followership, which did not serve me well. And I truly regret that. I have recognized that I spent way too much time developing certainties in what I was teaching without anybody questioning it, rather than giving people a lot of things to question when they went home. Here, take this home with you. Think about it. Question it. Make some notes to yourself. See what you like, see what you don't like, and let me know at another time, or maybe in an email or a written letter, and I'll be happy to chat with you. See, that's discipleship. That's what Jesus came to do. And what he aimed at was this, that he wanted his disciples to have a passion and an energy directed only to love God, to love our neighbors, and to, here we go, and to love even our political enemies. What would change in your life, in my life, if I discovered love of political enemies? I've had people say that they didn't have enemies, and then I had to stop and think a minute about all the griping, complaining, belly aching, and stone throwing verbally they did toward their political opponents. They were chunking piles, dump truck loads of rocks at their political opponents because they were watching only one view of the news 24/7 on their TV sets, and they just did not have a solid base of looking at their enemies with any kind of fairness, with any sort of love. Jesus told us to love our enemies. He talked about this in parable after parable after parable. The Good Samaritan, for instance. It just talks about somebody who would otherwise be your racial enemy coming along to help you after you've been beaten up and left for dead. Who is the neighbor there? Well, the neighbor is the Good Samaritan. The neighbor wasn't the institutionalized leaders that walked past the person that had been beaten and left for dead in the ditch. And that's why I'm here being a little hard on institutionalized Christianity and institutionalized leaders. Let us move upward in our love for God. Let us move upward in our love for our neighbors. And especially let us move upward in our love of enemies. To grow something in us and around us that is more soul satisfying and more beautiful through the love that I've been here preaching for a long time on the radio broadcast and now podcast, saying love alone is credible. The credibility of Christianity is in love, not in our institutions, not in the historicity of our doctrinal statements. Because somebody going to come along with a hammer and nail and put something on your church door that says, hold it, you've been missing the point. Love. I don't know. I'm not encouraging any kind of vandalism here, but I am encouraging us to be brave about love, to call our churches to an account, to call our institutionalized leaders to an account, to be held accountable for what love looks like. How are we going to be trained in our loving? What do we do about loving even a stranger? Loving an immigrant? Loving somebody who's been on the opposite side of our political ideas? How about some training and teaching in our churches that isn't about how to give more money so we can build a new building? Jesus warned about that. He said, you rich who have big barns and you think, look at me, I'm big and bad and I got big barns. I think I'll tear down all my barns and build bigger barns. And Jesus said, you're making a big mistake. You're presuming on the future based on the past, and you're not seeing the reality that's coming in on you. So, to that end, let's be lovers. And what does love look like? How does love sound? How does love live? How does love behave in conversations? How about taking a warm Thanksgiving pie or some kind of gift to our neighbor that we haven't even visited with? My next door neighbor, my neighbors are easily a quarter of a mile away because I live in a rural setting, but my next door neighbor had fallen and been hurt for quite a while. And it broke my heart to hear about it because we were available, but we didn't know. And I don't want to live my life in some kind of insulated bubble that I don't know how to love my neighbor, whoever they are, whatever color skin they are, whatever nationality they are, whatever life they live. I don't want to be insulated from loving my neighbor. Well, I got to tell this quick story to illustrate some of what I'm saying here. I've told here before a story about giving a man who was transient, traveling across country, and older gentleman needed a prescription, needed some food, and he was mentally a little foggy, and so I got him prescription food and learned that he'd been a professional boxer and that his body was ravaged by years of old-style boxing and bars and nightclubs all through the Southwest. Well, just this week I was on my way, just like the religious leaders in the parable of the Good Samaritan, on my way to do my thing of speaking at a church. And along the way I stopped at a place where I love to stop to get coffee, Quick Trip, and I noticed there was a lady who was carrying an awful lot of baggage, and I don't mean emotional. Well, it was present too. I saw a lot of bags and things she was awkwardly hanging on to tight, and she was in distress. Now, I won't tell the whole story except to say I took 5 minutes out of my journey to go preach somewhere, and I counted out some cash out of my pocket, which probably was enough to get some breakfast for this person. And they didn't know I was coming over to hand them some cash, but I went over to this person and I said, I'm sorry I can't be with you very long, but I can be with you just this long to hand you this money. I hope it helps you get from one place to the next. She burst into tears, could barely say thank you. She did say it, but it was through tears and being choked up. And as I walked away, I said, you take good care of yourself. And she said, thank you again. And off I went. You see what I'm talking about? That's what love trains you to do. Love trains you to pay attention. Love trains you to take a chance. See, I don't know. She could have spent that money on things that I wouldn't want her to spend it on. That's not my business. My business is to take care of my business, and my business is to be about love, not to go to a institutionalized place to preach and say, well, I couldn't stop because I had a institutional duty to go speak at a church. I took enough time to love somebody. And that, yeah, I'm breaking my arm to pat myself on the back, but I'm using it as a story to tell you this is how life can be lived for love alone. I'm not on this earth eating and sleeping and gain energy for anything less than love alone. So that's why I'm here telling you, we folks of faith are not here to defend the institutionalized business of the church. We're here to take all that passion and energy and direct it to loving God, loving our neighbors, loving strangers, and loving even our enemies. All right, let's take a few moments to close here, but I want to ask you to settle yourself, sit up as straight as you can, take a deep breath, and hold it for just 1 or 2 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. Hold it. And exhale. Center yourself. Get focused on love. Dream, imagine of what love would look like in the next moment. The next thing I want you to do is learn how to practice with me the beauty of saying the 3 most cherished, holy, and magic words in the human language. Say them. Get used to hearing your own voice saying, I love you. It's, I love you. I'm convinced there's some kind of physiological change happens in our body when we pay attention to saying that with eye contact, with a steady nerve to somebody, maybe a stranger, but maybe if nothing else, to a family member that hasn't heard your 3 words. I love you. I mean it. I'm just daring you to take the chance with those 3 words. It's awkward, it's startling, it's hard to do, but the value, ooh baby, the value is off the charts. All right, here's what I want to close with, as I always do, and it is to tell you the biggest mistake we are making as we continue to think we've got time, but I'm asking you to be present, be kind, love more, love now. Mother Teresa put it this way: go into the world today and love the people you meet. Let your presence light new light in the hearts of others. Oh, those words are like music to my soul. And here I am, Bishop Randy, no BS Bishop. I'm no Mother Teresa, but I'm me. And I'm here to ask you, let's get out there and do something beautiful, please. The world we're living in is littered with ugly. It's littered with vicious words and fights across the chasm. Ugly is getting done literally to death. May we be the people of beauty, rooted in love, grounded in love, stationed in our love's creed, to live this life for love alone. Bring beauty to the room you enter. Bring beauty to the parties you go to. Bring beauty to your workplace. Bring beauty to the grocery store. Bring beauty wherever you go. Because ugly, oh baby, ugly is getting done to death. Well, I'm Bishop Randy Dean, and I am honored that you gave me a half an hour of your life and time for this broadcast of the No BS Bishop. I'm alive to love, and I do believe lesser values than love are potential bait and switch or other iterations of BS. I do love you. God bless, and happy trails, y'all.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Bishop podcast. If you like the show, leave a comment on it. Or, even better, share it with your friends. And we'll see you on the next one.